Hello and welcome to A Sunny Book Nook. Today I'm going to be starting a new series on this channel, hopefully, if I can stick through with it, called The Politics of Fiction, where I'm going to be going through a bunch of fictional books that I read that I think had really interesting politics and things they were saying about the world that I still think about and that I think was my major takeaway from reading those books. I'm going to be going through a pretty big stack today and trying to get through each of the books as quickly as possible. And if you want me to make a long form political analysis review of any of the books that I'm talking about today, leave a comment down below and I will do it. I think I'm going to pick at least one book from this stack to do a full length review on, like to fully reread, fully annotate, and then explain all of my thoughts on them to you. But the thing is that I know that I've wanted to do this concept for a while. It's just that I don't know exactly what books are interesting for you, like what books you want me to talk about. So I'm just gonna let this be like a choose your own adventure, like you choose what I review situation, if that makes sense. If that doesn't make sense, I'm sorry, but yeah, I mean, okay, let's just jump right in. So the first book I'm going to talk about here is Normal People by Sally Rooney, and I think that the politics in this book are fascinating. We experience the perspectives of Connell, who kind of becomes a Marxist as he grows older, and the class tensions between him and his small town community in Ireland and his significant other / on again off again girlfriend Marianne, who is the town weirdo, who is quite eccentric, and her family is seen as the one, like the rich one, the one who lives in the big house, and Connell's mom works as the house cleaner for Marianne. And Marianne and Connell kind of get together in high school, but in secret, and then in college they kind of run into each other again. I think that the way that this book discusses coming of age and the love that comes with coming of age, and how that is fundamentally interlinked with politics and the amount of money your family comes from, the environment of your home life, the way that your parents treated you when you were a child, and how that translates into your adult life and how you interact with the world around you and how you interact with your romantic partners was so fascinating. I also think that the most interesting part of this book politically was that in Connell's chapter towards the middle or the end, I remember there was this section where he was talking about how as a literature major, as someone who's studying literature in college, what books end up actually being for a lot of like rich people and a lot of middle class people is a way to be a voyeur into working class lives and struggles, but not have to be emotionally connected to the actual people, but instead latch onto their stories. And I feel like that is such an interesting takeaway, especially as the author is a writer who is writing about a guy who is learning to be a writer and like read writing critically, and his understanding of how writing works as like an industry and how storytelling and narratives are ultimately controlled by and disseminated by wealthy people and for wealthy people. And I think that was just a really fascinating takeaway. And I know that Sally Rooney is a Marxist and I need to read her book Writing with Marxism, but I just thought this was fascinating. There's also a really good video of Sally Rooney talking about I think this book and her other work and stuff. I'll link it down below, but watching that really gave a new perspective onto this book for me. The next book I have here is There by Tommy Orange. I feel like this is not a surprising one. I think that this book is obviously very directly dealing with the Native American struggle and history and utilizing the reality of people's lives while putting in this story of interweaving characters and how they cope and interact. And it deals with Native people who live in urban areas, in Oakland specifically, because everyone is traveling to this big powwow that's going on in Oakland, and there's going to be cash prizes, and we are following a bunch of different people whose paths kind of intersect in interesting ways, and there are these people who have some dangerous plans for the powwow. This book is very gritty and dark, but in a fundamentally really realistic way, and I think that the way that it's written and how these characters are described and fleshed out and the problems they have being so dark and also really deeply rooted in generational trauma and in their material conditions was just really heart-wrenching and heartbreaking, and a reflection of how genocide is an ongoing phenomenon and settler colonialism continues to be the foundation of like this country and impacts people's interpersonal relationships on a really fundamental level. There's also a section in the middle that's just nonfiction, and I think that the history that our author is able to delineate in there in such a short amount of pages was so good, and I just think a lot of people should read this. I get why it won a bunch of prizes and stuff. The next book on this list is yet another adult contemporary, and that is New Waves by Kevin Wen. This book is about a low-paid Asian American customer service rep at this tech company and this black woman who is a programmer at this tech company, and they both feel that they are very much mistreated by this corporation because they're overexploited and mistreated due to their race, and also the ways that money impacts a lot of this and how they relate to each other and their families and their coworkers and stuff. I thought that the discussions here about technology and the ways that technology and capitalism are fundamentally interlinked, and also the ways that like racial capitalism in the US and the toxicity of Silicon Valley, and all the like the tech startup millennial things of the world, how those are very evil. I feel like this book does a really good job at talking about that, while the story maintains its plot of the grief that our main character, the Asian dude who works in customer service rep, feels for the death of one of his only friends, Margaret, who was the only black employee at this like company. And I just thought that a lot of the conversations in here were really politically pertinent and on point and really good, honestly. I thought that this was really good. It's very underhyped and more people should definitely check it out. But yeah, let me know if you want me to do a more in-depth analysis with like, you know, pulling out quotes and stuff of all the different things that I think this book is trying to say politically. Let me know. And for any of the other books too, but just a reminder. Next book on this list is Do You Dream of Terra 2 by Temi O. I talked about this in my most recent wrap-up, which you can watch up there. And basically this book is about these teenagers who get sent off to colonize another planet that is basically like Earth 2.0. And the thing is that I think that the political discussions going on here about how governments and like colonization of even space and the sort of tech initiatives behind it and like the reasons for basically like grooming these kids into being part of a mission that could be a suicide mission, and if not is a, you know, it's like putting the weight of humanity on the shoulders of these kids, and just the amount of pressure they get from that, and like what it's like to be in the limelight under social media and everything. It discusses a lot of important political concepts in the way that these different characters interact with each other on this ship in this enclosed space, and how race and gender fundamentally impacts the way they view each other and the way that they behave. For example, the co-captain of the ship is this white boy who comes from generational wealth. His brother is like an Olympic level like rower or something. His dad is like owner of some company, basically like big shot boy, right? And he is the co-captain because he's just really good at what he does. He's good at everything that he does, but he's also a fucking asshole because he's a smug, rich white boy who thinks that like making fun of people who have less power than him and taking advantage of women is like fun. And we see his perspective and why he is the way that he is, and also how he treats the other people and how other people on the ship treat him, both with a sense of like pedestalizing him, but also hating him for the power that he has over them. And I think that that's true for so many power dynamics, like on Earth, literally, even though they are set in space. I also think that the conversation that it brings up in terms of how it's like to colonize another planet. Even though the book doesn't explicitly kind of criticize that concept necessarily, I think it brings up the question of, if we were to rebuild society, if I was a teenager who had the opportunity to get sent to another planet after 13 years of training, and I'm stuck on a ship for 20 years with 5 other people my age, and then once we get to this planet, we have to figure out how this entire new Earth runs because we're the first people to reach this planet. Like, that's a lot of pressure. And how do you structure the society? How do you structure the economy? How do you treat people's like personal versus private versus public property? How do we divvy up resources? How are we going to correct the mistakes from the past? One of the main characters in this book is a girl who is very much focused on the rules and regimens of trying to maintain day-to-day ship life, and is just like the one who gets everyone's ass in shape. I love her a lot. I think she's a cool character. I love when women are girl bosses, and she definitely is one. But she is also one that is very like anxious, and she's really worried about what they're gonna do once they reach this planet. She's drafting up like a new sort of like constitution. She's trying to figure out how these people, how previous mission groups have worked out social interaction rules and boundaries and the kind of universal application of those versus how she can integrate that onto her current ship experience, as well as bring a sense of harmony and the sense of like, we have the chance to create a new civilization, a new society. So we should start it off by doing all the things that our predecessors didn't do on Earth. On Earth, we over-extracted resources, we over-consumed, we polluted, we created systems that make people suffer in immense poverty, and climate change is a looming event. Oh, and that's the other thing. This book really discusses climate change and the fact that this Earth is not going to be livable for much longer, and thus the question of, okay, well, if there was an Earth 2, what would we do about it? And this is what the book ultimately like talks about. But I don't know, I just think that this book was a very interesting book in the amount of concepts it was able to fit in on like a political level. So let me know if you want me to talk about this book more in depth and like reread it, because all of these books I've only read one time, and I'm sure on a second time around I could have more nuanced opinions and more detailed and text-backed thoughts based off of these books. The next book I have here is The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. This book discusses desirability politics, the trauma of family and poverty and racial violence, and the setting of the Midwest in this really politically just poignant way. I think that Toni Morrison is a genius, obviously, and I think that upon more thorough reading of this book, I could take out some very interesting points that she's trying to say about what it's like to be a young Black girl and just feel so much self-hatred. I think this book is, honestly, any Toni Morrison is just a very politically viable book, and as is Beloved, I think the explorations here of memory and trauma and the haunting specter of the past was incorporated in this magical realism dream-like way, and the writing is just so dense and so packed with political meaning. It's almost unbearable to read through each sentence by sentence because there's just so much meaning packed into it. And wow, it's phenomenal. But the next book I have here is a historical fiction, The Underground Railroad by Colson Whitehead. This book is a reimagining of the Underground Railroad as an actual railroad. And I think that the way that this book retells history, phenomenal. So cool. And all the different political points that it hits on, like the way that Black women were forcibly sterilized, the way that Black women were coerced into sterilization at various places, the way that Irish people interacted with Black people or interacted with white people at the time, how cultures of race would differ between city to city, how escaping a plantation and the trauma that follows with that will follow you everywhere. And I don't know, I just think that this book touched on so many things that like should be foundational to know about in American history, but obviously aren't because of how America is. But yeah, I just think that that makes this book so politically potent. The next book I have on this list is Such a Fun Age by Kiley Reid, and I know so many people have talked about this book, and I've talked about this book a lot, but I think that the politics of this book are very good in the way that it makes fun of white liberal feminism, girl boss feminism, I'm with her feminism. It's very funny because this book pokes fun at, in both the plot and the writing, this rich white girl who comes from money, who's always had like black nannies growing up, and who's now hiring a black nanny for her daughter, who is not, and this white lady is like really overcompensating by trying to be the sophisticated white lady that she wants to be. She wants to project an idea of herself, and that's ultimately what white womanhood is all about. And I feel like this book just dissects it so geniusly. I mean, I know some people don't like it, and you know, that's fine. I'm not offended or anything, but like, I just think that the way that this book talks about specifically white womanhood and the ways that class makes you interact with people your age so differently, because the nanny that she's hired, this babysitter, she feels super behind on everything in her life because all of her friends are like in law school or already have a job and are getting raises with like a full-time salary and benefits, and she's babysitting. And I think that like she just feels really inadequate for that, and because she's not like a really active character, she's basically like a passive entity throughout this entire story. As things happen to her, the ways that she feels about interactions and the ways that the interactions that happen to her are a result of her being a woman, her being black, her coming from the class background that she does, her comparing herself to her friends. I think it was just, wow, so intelligent and very just witty and clever. Obviously, I could talk about this book on a political sense for a long time, so let me know if you want me to do, you know, yet another Such a Fun Age review. There's so many of those in BookTube already, but, you know. And finally, the last book I have on this list is a young adult sapphic fantasy, and that is The Midnight Lie by Marie Rutkowski. I've wanted to talk about the politics of this book for the longest time, because when I read it, I was like, this smells kind of revolutionary to me. I was like, dang, this seems like a piece of young adult media that incorporates fantasy and dystopian plot lines in order to make a greater point about caste societies and class societies. And it does. In this world, people are separated based off of their blood, basically, and the type of blood they have determines whether you're nobility and get to live within the walls of the city in abundance and wealth and frivolity, or if you are a poor person who has to work outside the walls every single day for your miserable life. We're following this orphan girl who is the latter of the two, and she ends up working for this woman who takes her in like she's a child, like she's her own child. Basically, she's running this illegal operation of making people who want to cross the wall fake passports that look so legit that they can scam the guard. Oh, also, in this world, the guards are kind of like, you know, an arm of just the fascist police state, and the guards basically take away people who break the various arbitrary rules. So people who have that like lower blood quantum of the good blood or whatever end up getting thrown into jail for having too long hair, for wearing a certain color that's only reserved for nobility, shit like that, right? So at the beginning of the book, I was talking about how she works for this lady who like fakes passports, right? So this lady is someone who like takes her under her wing almost, and she has like almost a sister-like figure who also works with this lady, and they kind of run the business together of putting together passports to sneak people across. And there is so many interesting elements in this book, so many interesting political elements and commentary throughout this, and the nature of how women relate to each other and the power dynamics within them, and the ways that they are hidden, and the ways that young girls are manipulated into paths and into doing things that they ultimately like don't need to be doing just due to their circumstances, and they can't really help that, and they're honestly a lot of the time like really blind to it, really unable to see that. Anyway, but the other part of this is that the police state is like obviously brutal, and the repression is very real, so the level of self-expression and rebellion that people who are in the lower caste can express is minimal to none. But the inciting incident of the story is that some rich person's like brightly colored bird gets lost and has escaped to the other side of the wall, and our main character finds it and brings it to the police to try to return it. But the police are basically like, oh, you stole it, and they throw her into prison. When she's in prison, she meets another person there who is a hottie. She's a bit of a hottie. She's a bit of a sexy person, and she introduces herself as a traveler from another part of the world off of this island. And this book explores, oh my gosh, this book explores so many things, but like, I don't want to give any spoilers now, but if you pick this book as the one you want me to do a review on, I will go full in onto the spoiler, in-depth review, like the way that the different plot reveals and elements, like just say something really pertinent about how the world operates. Oh my gosh, it's so freaking cool, because we basically end up seeing how all the rich people can only exist the way they do due to the complete and utter exploitation of the poor people. I mean, obviously, like that's the greater concept being illustrated here, but like the way that it's done out is just so fucking cool and crazy. And also the way that men's sense of entitlement towards women is also portrayed through the romantic love triangle situation in here so well. And also the blindness of people who are visitors and tourists in another land, like how they interact with the world is really indicative of how that world works, and also how the way that the structures and the world that creates itself is ultimately upheld by people not really knowing their true history, not knowing the reality of why their world is the way the world is, not knowing why the hierarchies are the way they are, and the fact that everyone is being lied to in terms of what their roles are and who they are and why they're important to this structure. And when you end up seeing what systems and what powers are behind all of the things that cause so much just awfulness, all of the different plot points in this book, and the ways that this world is structured and how bad it is, like, once you come to the conclusion of, like, what is causing it all, that point is very politically on the nose, and in a good way, I think. This book was just a really solid young adult fantasy that had some really great political messaging. And I mean, a lot of young adult fantasy does, honestly. I feel like a lot of young adult dystopian fiction, exists to criticize a lot of the systems that we exist under, and previously have existed under. Anyway, so yeah, this book is really interesting, and I think that the ways that, like, political messaging gets disseminated through fiction is so fascinating to me, which is why I even started this. I decided to finally start this series on my channel, because I think that, all organizing is science fiction. Who said that? I literally don't remember. But basically, it's the idea that building a better world is science fiction, because we don't know what a better world looks like, do we? We can only criticize the world that we live in right now and imagine what the future is going to look like and work towards that future. And it's really up to us, and it's up to our imaginations and our abilities and our organizing. Seek community in each other, the way that we teach ourselves and learn our own histories and build communities and networks. That's basically what is literature is all about. I feel like it's about raising class consciousness, and the ways that literature has become super defanged into a way of just bourgeois voyeurism is really disgusting to me. And that's why I really liked the point that Sally Rooney was making in Normal People about readers and writers. So yeah, those are the books in my part 1 of my political books series. I fucking love looking at the politics of fiction books and what fictional books are saying and how they're saying them. Oh, it's so fascinating to me. I love it so much. I love doing breakdowns of it. And I don't think I see that content enough on here. I love reviews, but I want reviews that, like, try to pick apart what the book is trying to say. Anyway, so yeah, this is getting heavy. But these are the books I talked about. Let me know, once again, I'm asking you to comment down below and let me know which book you want me to do a full spoilery review on, with full-on annotated Marxist analysis, bringing in texts and critical theory from other writers and using that analysis like a video essay, but with books, kind of like that. Yeah, let me know which books or which book you want me to do that for. So yeah, pick one please. But with that said, like, subscribe, etc., all that stupid bullshit, and thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!